Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So this will be my first long video on this channel, and initially I have posted a few shorts where I said that I'll be uploading my strategy videos soon. So consider this as one of those strategy videos in which I'll be sharing my experience so far and my learnings in this journey of chasing RBI Grade B exam. So this will be in multiple parts. So this is the part one of the video. And in this part, I'll be focusing exclusively on the general awareness section of RBI Grade B. And let's dissect this section together. So as I told you that it's been a while since I've been preparing and appearing for RBI Grade B examination. To give you a gist of this, I have given 3 attempts so far. My first attempt was in panel year 2021, where I could not clear prelims. Next was in 2022, last year, where I appeared in the interview but could not clear the interview. And in the current year also, I have appeared in the interview and the results are awaited. So let's see what happens over there. So the best way to share my experience would be to give you overview of my scores, overall scores as well as GA scores. So to begin with, first I'll give you analysis of my scores and why GA is important to clear phase 1 of RBI grade B. So as you can see in this graph, so this is the year, the red bars you see is the cutoff. So these bars, these are the overall cutoff. The black ones are my GA marks. So these black bars you see, these are my GA marks, and this golden bars you see, this is the total marks which I scored in phase 1 across these 3 attempts. All right, and just to dive deep into analysis, I have also plotted this gray line, this line you see. So this line is basically my GA marks as percentage of the cutoff. Sorry. So this, I was talking about this gray line, this line. So this is my GA marks as a percentage of cutoff, and this pink line, this is my GA marks as percentage of total. So now what I wanted to show in this graph is something which I observed over my 3 attempts. The first importance of GA is to clear your cutoff. So if you want to clear cutoff of phase 1, GA is very crucial. Just see example here. I scored 18.75 in my first attempt. Yeah, so this comes around 28% of the total cutoff. And if you see, I fell short of cutoff by 0.25 marks. Now, this marks is very less in my opinion, because if you see the weightage of GA is of 80 marks in 200, so this comes around 40%. That means if you see this year's cutoff 66.75, I should have scored at least 24 marks in GA, but my score is well below 24. And although I did pretty well in English but not so well in quant and reasoning, which we will be dissecting in our later videos, I fell short of clearing the cutoff. Still, now come to 2022. You see, This jump, I would say I worked a lot to secure this jump, and you can see how comfortably I cleared this cutoff. You see the weightage, 42% of my marks are from GA only, and 49% of my marks of the cutoff were cleared with the help of GA only. Further, in the current year, although you will see that the curve is flattening and it's not that much of jump, but if you consider the difficulty level of the paper, this is still a very good jump. I would say if the paper had the paper of GA been of the level as it was in 2022, so this would not have been 35, this would have been 40 marks. And that is why, although quantitatively what you are seeing over here that the jump is not that much, but qualitatively if you see, this jump is a good jump in my opinion. So over these three attempts, my learnings from GA or attempting the GA, or what score should one have in mind while attempting the GA paper, is you should approximately try to get 40% of the marks at least in the through your GA paper. That means now you must be intrigued about the fact that when one goes in the examination hall, he's not aware of the difficulty level or what will be the cutoff. So how can one judge 40%? So in this case, I would say you have to go through the previous year papers, and when you go through previous year papers, I'm not telling go through the GA papers and then analyze it. It is difficult to analyze the difficulty level of GA paper because those questions were asked in as per the news of that year. So you might have been knowing those things now, but knowing the facts in the examination hall is a different thing. So that is why I think you should rather go through the quant reading and English paper to get an overview of what the trend has been. And if you see the trend, the difficulty level is continuously increasing. We'll go more into details in our later slides about how the difficulty level is increasing in GA and how should it be approached. So like I said, it is crucial to help in clearing the cutoff. So you must be focusing on getting at least 40% marks in the GA. 40% of the cutoff. Now this year the cutoff was 55 around. So if someone is scoring 22 marks, it's a very good score. So he's having high chance of clearing the cutoff. So when you give the exam and you know the question level is either at the same level at the previous year or it is at a higher level, you could immediately figure out what should be your target score in the GA paper. But from what I feel that the difficulty level is continuously increasing, and I feel it is slightly difficult for any examination board to further increase the difficulty level. I mean, the cutoff is 55 and 200. So how much below will it go? It can go till 50. So still 20 marks should be there in your head. So one should target in 20 to 25. Now again, if the paper is pretty easy, which I don't think it will be as per the trend, so this you have to gauge in the real time in the examination hall. But if you are not able to do that, this is something you should keep in mind, and maybe this will help you. Secondly, if you are covering the race for the cutoff and you score high in your GA part, so this will help you easing pressure on quant and reasoning section. Quant and reasoning section are those two sections which are very dicey and very uncertain. For them, the difficulty level is even higher, and it is difficult to take guess in these type of questions. You cannot take guesses. You cannot eliminate this. This is something which you can leverage in GA section. However, you have the chance of taking elimination, or you can take some guesstimate and get your answers. So this can be done in GA part, but quant and reasoning it cannot be done. So that is why it is also important to score more in GA section. And here I have said any score more than 25 is a bonus. Now I have marked it as with a star because It is difficult to give a one particular number, but based on previous 2 to 3 year trends, this is a decent score in my opinion. This is a decent score, and it will help you in other section, provided there is one more section in which you are very good. For example, English is another scoring section. We'll discuss in detail about English in our next video most probably, but for now we are sticking to GA. Now I will discuss my assessment of GA paper of 2023. So my paper was in second shift, and this assessment is predominantly based on questions in the second shift because I attempted it, so I can give a more holistic detail of how what one faces in the examination hall. So if I to start this assessment, if you see firstly the nature of questions. So this time this was something which was last time also, but this time it was even more lengthy. So when I say lengthy, as you must be knowing that you have got 25 minutes in GA paper and you need to solve 80 questions in these 25 minutes. Now this time there were many good candidates who were not even able to read 80 questions. This was this is what you call a lengthy paper. And what added to the agony was it was a very factual paper. Now this has been a trend in this exam, what I have seen, that they're not asking very conceptual paper in general awareness section. It is cold hard facts. You need to remember it, you need to recall it, you need to answer it. So that is how it is. And we need to accept the fact that the IBPS is going to ask questions on the same pattern, and we need to be prepared with that. So hence questions were very factual in nature, and what made them really lengthy that they were statement based. So I would say they were in the 80 questions, there were approximately 60 to 65 questions which were having multiple statements. So you can see, I, in principle they're not asking only 60 questions, they are in fact checking your knowledge on 180 questions. So this also made the paper lengthy, and additionally it were moderate to tough. That means it is not something which is very frequently you see in the news or very superficial fact. It is something that you need to go into the deeper. Yeah. For example, they are asking you about the Maven scheme, Maven, Maven of NASA, and they will ask you. I mean, they ask you what is the full form of V in Maven. So something of the sort of the question. So even if you know that Maven is related to NASA, this would not suffice. You need to know the full form of Maven of all five alphabets. So these kind of questions, they make the paper tricky and difficult. Then broadly, if you see, I have classified the questions were either in news or random. What do I mean by in news? Something which has been in news 6 months, till 6 months before the examination. Anything beyond that, I would say is a random. Yeah. And lastly, like I said, they were indirect, they were random, and very less one-liners. So this is the crux of what I have discussed so far. So this is something what one needs to keep in mind next year as well, because I think same thing will happen next year, and you need to be mentally prepared to face such kind of questions. Now I have broadly divided the themes in on which questions were there last year. So I could only find around 60 to 65 questions because it is, firstly, many people have not seen 80 questions. Secondly, it is difficult to recall exact questions, but broadly themes can be recalled because mainly people recall the answers what they have marked in the exam. and based on those answers also we can do the back analysis and we can calculate, we can find out what the question was. So using that technique, I have divided the entire paper into certain themes, and I will dig deeper into those themes. So these are the themes that one needs to keep in mind when while we are reading stuffs for GA. That questions are being asked on these themes. So when any fact which is consistently coming in news and it is centered around these themes. So remember to number one, revise more on these themes. Number two, go deeper, go slightly beyond what is there in the news to understand the event holistically and as well as remember some key facts related to it. Yeah. So if I talk about the first thing, which is international organizations, indices, and reports. So last year, if you see some of the questions, so there were questions on there was question on UNESCO, and it was again indirect that US has decided to rejoin which organization. There was one question related to WHO, right? There was ECB headquarter was asked, European Central Bank. There were question on global gender gap, and there was question on Atlanta Declaration. There was question on doing business index. So these are the broad questions which were asked. So if you see, there were approximately 8 questions that were from these areas. So what? So the learning from this is that international organizations is something and reports is something that one needs to follow. Now this is consistently being asked in the GA paper, but the question is how do you read these? Up to what depth you read this? So what I feel is first what you should do is you should prepare a list of standard organizations, important organizations which are there, important organizations like IMF, World Bank, UN, OECD, World Economic Forum, SARC, ASEAN, etc. Like this, you'll find you make a list of around 20 organizations, and through its website every day you go on the website, you read about them. Don't you are not required to remember or mug up the facts. Just read about them, and you will have a broad idea of what they do. Because even if you have broad idea, sometimes that also help in answering the questions. Hence, I would suggest go through the websites of these important organizations. There are more important organizations. If you want a list, you can comment. I'll give you a list. Now, there were few questions on current finance. So, what is current finance? So, the questions which are related to banking, the, for example, there was one question which I would say it was about interest rate of Kishan Vikas Patra, or it was whether I think it was which one of the following has the highest interest rate. So, KVP was the answer. So, these types of questions which are related to banking. Then there was question on gross NPA ratio, current gross NPA ratio as per financial stability report. Again, a concept of banking. Then there was question which I would say was more random nature. They asked 1st July is the foundation day of which institutions. I see AI was the answer. So these kind of questions, these are all under finance section. So banking is another section which you should be doing pretty well, preparing pretty well, and you should be prepared of random questions from the banking sector, because I've seen that most of the random questions will come from this banking sector only. Okay, so another question, if you ask me, there was question on fin. It is associated with which bank? So these type of question you will get in finance. Government schemes. Now, government schemes is something which is very important. Unfortunately, last year the questions were less from the government scheme, but usually there are 10 to 10 plus questions from government schemes. And I think it would have been 7 to 8, but because I could not find all the 80 questions, hence I could not classify them all. And whatever questions I have, 5 questions were from government schemes. So what were those schemes? So there was questions on product linked incentive scheme. There was questions on urban development schemes. Then there was question on evolve. So these are the areas from where questions were asked. So as you see, again questions were not direct. So they asked which of the following sectors is not included in product linked incentive scheme. So as you know that there are a lot of sectors which are included in product linked scheme, and you have to find out which one of is not in those 13 or 14 sectors. So it is very difficult. So this is not easy. So again, you need to be very thorough with such schemes. Then again, this is slightly, I would say, was understanding based, because by seeing the options, if you have general idea of those schemes, you can find the answer that all of them will correct. So the question was basically which of the following schemes are there for urban transformation and launched on. There was a date given. I think it was May 2015, and date was also the 15th May, something of that sort. 2015 date was given and launched on this date, and three schemes were there. Now, if you know that all three schemes are related to transformation, but you don't know whether the launch date is same for them or not. But if you have a vague idea that 2015 is the launch date for all three, most of the people they'll take the risk and they'll mark all correct, and that is how it was. All correct was the correct answer. So these kind of risks you need to take because you have very limited knowledge. You need to judiciously utilize that knowledge and your presence of mind in the examination hall. Then again, this is the most important thing which I wanted to show. 14 questions. So far I have seen that the highest weightage is of questions related to RBI. So from where are these questions coming from? So, number one, website. Be thorough with the RBI website. This will not only help you in phase one, but in phase two and as well as in interview as well. In website, you will have firstly circulars. 6 month circular. I think it's very crucial. Visit the website regularly. See which circulars are dated. Now, if you are starting your preparation way before, like 10 months or 12 months before the exam, then you can just go through them and don't try to remember them as such. But once you get close to the examinations, try to mug up every circular which is there at least 6 months prior to the examination. Okay. Once you are done with the circulars, next section is reports. Sorry, circulars I told you. Next is reports. In the reports, you have some statutory reports like annual report is there, financial stability report you will find, monetary policy report you will find. Then there are some other reports as well, such as trends and progress in banking report and monthly bulletins. Those also you find. Now, from if you ask me, from my understanding, the cost benefit of reading these reports is very less. Very less. If you read all the reports, you remember them, you make notes. It is very difficult to exactly recall what is asked in the examination hall. So what I suggest is you should go through some summary PDF of coaching institutes which they are providing, go through their videos, make your own notes from those videos and PDF, and revise your notes. This would suffice, and this would uh, help you answer 80% of the questions which are asked from these reports of RBI. Yeah. Then again, another thing is initiatives of RBI. Initiatives of RBI like Antar Drishti dashboard was there last year in news, and question was related to it. They asked questions, and CBDC, again CBDC wholesale question was related to CBDC wholesale launch date. Payment visions question was related to payment vision. Interbank call money market limit. These kind of questions were there. So initiatives is the third thing. So all the initiatives which are there in the news, you need to be thorough with that. And by thorough, I mean you need to understand what that initiative is. You need to understand the vision of that initiative, understand how many banks are involved, what is the date, crucial dates, key dates. These all things you need to be thorough with. So this is how you should be covering RBI related content for your GA perspective. Now these there were some miscellaneous questions as well. So by miscellaneous I mean which cannot be categorized in one uniform category. So like questions from environment were there. There was question on Indian Ocean dipole. So that would come under a miscellaneous category. Then there was a question on tiger reserves. Again, environment related. Cyclone Biparjoy. Again, disaster management and environment related. Ethanol blending target. Something of government initiative. Something in news. All these things were in news. But because they cannot be categorized into one uniform, that is why I put them in miscellaneous category. MV Impress question was there. So these kind of questions, mangrove cultivation. So you can see environment has also certain weightage. So environment related question you also need to cover agriculture environment particularly. Then person in news. So if you see person in news, if you go through any compilation, so usually you will find person in news as a separate section in any compilation, and usually this is very difficult to remember and recall. So I would say go through it and just see if something is there which is there in the news all over in the news, something which is related to the mm, very high post. I have seen what I have seen in compilation that they also give appointments of like vice president post in banks, ED in banks. So these kind of news, I don't think this is important. But yes, when you see there is some supreme level appointment or top executive appointment like CEO, MD, something of that sort you see. So that is important in public sector banks. So this should be covered. This also includes places in news and prizes in news. So as you must be knowing that Nobel Prize have been announced for this year. So this is an area from where question can come. Who has got the Nobel Prize and what is the actual reason that they have been given? For in which area have they worked? So this much one should know while preparing Nobel Prizes. And again it becomes important, so you need to be very this is something which is expected. If you're going in the exam you should be knowing about Nobel Prize and all about it, who has got Nobel Prize, what is either her nationality. So these kind of things you must be knowing. Now if I talk about current economy, so I think this is one of those parts which is very sorted, and Predominantly, it has questions from budget, it has questions from economic survey, and it has questions from general economic developments. So, if you see, last year there was questions on FDI data, top three countries which have FDI in India, top three states in India which have received the FDI. Then there was question on trade policy. There was question on initiatives such as Towns of Export Excellence. There was question on GST collections. Then there was question on service exports. There was question on G20. So these are the general economic development and those economic developments which are usually covered in budget and economic survey. So budget and economic survey is very important document, and I think this is something which is a must if one is preparing his general awareness section. So this is another area where we should really focus and go in detail to different sources. Lastly, there were questions on sports as well. Two questions were there on sports. One was again very random and indirect nature, West Indies versus India. 1983 World Cup final. What was the score of West Indies in the final match? Which was pretty random in my opinion because I could not find it anywhere in the news in my preparation. But maybe some development would happen there. That is why they have asked. And there was another question which was related to badminton, and Super 500 was the answer for that question. So these were two random sport questions. So sports also becomes important because of every year you will see at least 2 to 5 questions which are there from sports, some prize or some tournament that India has won, or you see question from lawn tennis, US Open, Australian Open, then from racing. So different areas are covered, so you need to be updated with whatever the development is there in the news. And the good thing is that in the compilations you will find a separate section for sports as well, so you can rely on this section, and you can you don't need to go very deep into this. Just you need to have superficial information about what it is and what is the any development in any particular sport. Now I'll be focusing on sources which I have followed this year. I would also like to tell that since I'm a working professional, so I have kept my sources very limited. So initially, I would say that I have taken a crack grade B course of for phase two, and in this phase two, you get some GA material as well. And I have used this GA material mainly to prepare for my GA part in phase one as well. So in this GA material, you get phase one GA, phase two GA PDF, and MCQs and PIB compilations. So in GA there was phase 1, phase 2, PIB. These are the materials which I have followed. In addition to this, RBI circular PDF was also there in the phase 2 course. So then RBI circular is also there. Then you have PIB compilation. This is the most important in my opinion. Then you have some flagship reports. For some flagship reports, I have gone through the summary videos of different institutes which is available there on the YouTube, and they also conduct MCQs on the same. So I followed those. So for reports like Financial Stability Report, RBI Annual Report, and other session on reports and indices by international institutions. So you get those kind of videos on the YouTube. So you just go through one or two of those videos and you will be done. I think the major part is covered. So cost benefit wise, this was my approach of doing flagship reports. Another area which I feel is very crucial, like I told before, is budget and economic survey. Now, for budget and economic survey, first I go through the Rouse IAS channels video, and PDF. So they every year after the budget and economic survey, you will see their video in 2 or 3 parts. It is around, I would say, 4 to 5 hours long. But once you go through that video, you'll have the conceptual clarity with regard to budget and economic survey. And once you're done with that, then for the objective part, which is the RBI GA, you should follow at least two videos of two different coaching institutes on YouTube and download their PDF, revise. I would suggest you to make your own notes for budget and economic survey, because many things it might happen that you are already aware of the fundamentals of budgets and basics of budget. So if when you make your own notes, so your own notes, maybe in 2 to 3 pages, you can summarize the budget and economic survey and important data. For example, data with regard to fiscal deficit, the target of the fiscal deficit, and then how much is the capital expenditure, revenue expenditures. These all things you can enlist in your notes, and then you can revise them again and again, and that will save time. And that is very efficient way of learning budget and economic survey. Then another area of focus is government schemes. Now in the government schemes, there are a lot of schemes, and it is difficult to go through all of them, remember all of them. So my approach was initially first to focus on key ministries. So these were the key ministries which I had covered. And the second part was schemes which were in use as per PIB. So I was following PIB compilation. In this compilation, you get a section for government schemes. So most of the government schemes which were in use were covered here as well. So this part was covered from here. And if required, if I felt that there is requirement to read more on certain schemes for which are core schemes of the government, so so I went through its website and more details I noted down in my notes. In the government schemes, you have Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Social Justice, Ministry of Housing. Sorry, this is Ministry of Health, Ministry of MSME, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Housing. So these were the ministries which I covered because I had less time, and I also prefer to keep my sources limited, and I rely on revising more. So these were the ministry which I followed, but there can be more ministry which could have been followed, in my opinion, if one needs to prepare it comprehensively. But these are the important ministries. Then in the supplementary, I gave a lot of mock tests. So mainly I took PM subscription, practice mock, and they provide you 10 full length mock, and in the full length mock I practiced the GA section, and then there are other free mocks also available on different coaching portals website. So you can go over there and you can attempt, you can practice. Some Telegram channels are there which will give you mocks, MCQs to practice, so you can practice from there. So what I felt that you need to practice from multiple sources, and as many questions as you do in GA, it will help you in some way or the other. So especially sometimes you get intuitive guesses. So these intuitive guesses come from uh, sometimes they come from those questions which you might not remember but you might have practiced somewhere. So that way these diversifying your resources really help. Then I think before the exam, maybe 1 week before the exam or 2 weeks before the exam, you will find many marathon sessions on YouTube with respect to GA. They are sort of revision sessions, so that you can take part in 1 to 2 hour. You can take part over there because many concepts are also discussed. So that also help you reinforce a lot of concepts and facts which you might have missed otherwise. So those sessions also help. Although I feel that in marathon sessions the cost benefit is really less because it is very intense and stressful session, and maybe you'll get one question or two questions after practicing thousands of MCQs. So if you have less time, you can skip this. But if you have got time and you are confident on your preparation, you can also try to follow this. In my opinion, I could have added more into my preparation, which is daily newspaper. I could have continued reading till the 1 week before the exam, which I stopped because it consumes a lot of time for me. It takes me 1.5 hour, 2 hour to finish the newspaper. So that I could not afford to do once the notification was out because I had less time and I need to use it judiciously. Face Cloud is a very known name in the market, and their PDF I did not follow because I saw that they are having 300 plus pages of PDF for every month. So this is like reading a new book every month and then revising it at the time of the exam. And I know myself that I would not be able to do this very effectively. That is why I never followed Affairs Cloud. But it is a good name. I have seen that many of the questions are direct from their material. So if someone is confident in their abilities, they can go for it. Detailed reports I could have gone, and when I say detailed reports, it is mainly related to RBI. I did not go through, I only go through the summaries, so that will help you in phase one. But in phase two, beyond a certain point of time, it becomes difficult. Beyond a certain point, it becomes really difficult to utilize that report effectively in your answers. This year in phase two, to my surprise, there was questions from a report, and for example, report on currency and finance. On this report, there was one question in phase two, and because I had read only summary, so I had hardly 3 to 4 points in my at that point of time in my memory. So somehow I managed to elaborate on those points and then complete my answer. So I don't know how they'll mark me, but that is what happens when you have not read the detailed reports. Then comprehensive government schemes. So I went through selected government schemes. So if one is not very confident with going through these limited ministries, so they can go through at least 15 ministries. You'll get this important list on Craig Grade B's channel. So I followed their list, whatever the list they give. So if you're not confident, so you can read all of those schemes and try to read more relevant schemes which are more recently in use and the flagship schemes from those ministries. Now, many of the things I've already spoken, how to prepare and what sources that I followed and ideally what should be followed. But still, to give it a more structured, uh, conclusion, I would say I would revise it once more for you. So, if you have time now, for example, currently we are in October, so maybe phase one will be in May, June, something, or maybe July. So one still has, I think, more than 6 months of time. So if you are very new to this preparation and you are starting just yet, so this is one approach which you can follow in for the initial few months, I would say. But maybe if you when February or March comes, so at that time there is more certainty regarding notification dates. At that point of time, you should restrict your sources. So what I would say is you should start with multiple sources and till a certain point of time, maybe this is February. After that, you should restrict your sources. So this is maybe till May, and after that, you need to just revise these sources which you have limited yourself to. So this is how one should approach in GA. To follow a newspaper, you can choose to follow any newspaper. So I used to read Indian Express. Now the purpose of reading newspaper was very different. So in phase one, you have English as well. Reading newspaper will help you increase your comprehension speed, because what I have felt in English, there are certain sections which will consume a lot of time. Comprehension being one such section, and in addition to comprehension, then there are para-jumbled sentences, and then you also need to make paragraph by reordering those sentences. So these kind of questions, they consume a lot of time and there are chances of them going wrong. But these questions, if you're marking right, they're really helpful in clearing the cutoff, because if one question is right in para-jumbled sentences or in reordering the sentences where you have to make a paragraph, if one sentence is wrong, your entire paragraph might be wrong. So that is why reading newspaper is important. Secondly, it will also help you in miscellaneous GA type questions. Sometimes something might be new, some very small thing or something related to it, which is not covered in PIP, or even if it is covered, but you're not able to recall it. But because you have read it somewhere in the newspaper, so that might help you in getting you those clicks in the examination hall. But I would strongly suggest don't read newspaper to remember something or mug up something. That is not the purpose of newspaper in my opinion. You just need to go through it as if you're reading a book. Understand it, try to understand it, don't try to mug it up. In phase two, newspaper will help you in building your opinions. They'll help you get some fodder points which you can always use, and it will also help you in building certain concepts which are there in the news. So that way newspaper is important for this examination. Then monthly compilations you have to follow at least one. Take a course or you can get some free PDF also on Telegram channels. So you can just follow one compilation, and at least 3 months before the exam, or 4 months I would say to be on the safer side. 4 months before the exam, you start relying solely on these monthly compilations and revise it again and again, because these compilations are also very bulky. For PIB, you can rely on some compilation or you can go through website. Now there will be certain overlap between these monthly compilations and PIB compilations. But still, I would suggest you to go through a separate compilation of PIB, because many questions are directly picked up from PIB. Many questions are directly picked up from PIB or from the paragraph of PIB. So if you are reading PIB, that will help you solve questions in the examination. So you have to. This is very important. You have to follow this. Government schemes, like I said before, do flagship schemes, follow important ministry and schemes which are in the news. So you can either go through the PIB material or you can go on the website to dig deeper into schemes. Then reports, we have certain reports: annual report, financial stability report, trends and progress in banking report. So these are mainly RBI reports, which are really important. Other reports, example, if some report from NITI Aayog comes, that also becomes important. But those will be usually covered in the PIB. But for these reports, I would suggest you go through separate videos on YouTube and make your own notes and mug up those facts, whatever that is. It will be hardly 1-2 pages of notes. Then you can mug it up and revise them again and again. Circulars, you can follow RBI website, continuously follow it and see if something is very relevant. For example, something related to NBFCs comes, or some urban cooperative bank related circular is there. So these circulars you need to follow. Budget and economic survey, another very important thing in my opinion. Approach for budget and economic survey will be: watch video from two different sources, read their PDF, practice their MCQs, and then at the same time you have to make notes. So when you are revising, you'll revise these notes again and again, and I think your budget and economic survey will be, you'll be able to answer most of the questions from then. Now when you are giving mocks, so you will see certain relevant or repetitive themes which is there in news, but you are consistently marking it wrong. Maybe some person in news, some books on author, something of that sort. So you can make notes, selective notes, I would say, on those themes or those relevant topics, and the answers which are there in the solution of these mocks. Read through those answers. Take some time and read it slowly and try to process it. So you cannot make notes of all the mocks, but if you are reading also, that will also help you in the exam. And up to what time you have to cover GA? So I would suggest you should cover GA up to 1 week before phase one. So this time phase one was on 9th July. So up to 2nd July I covered. Up to 2nd July I covered GA. After that I did not. I stopped. But one can go till 7 also, but I think that not give you that much of cost benefit. After you are done with all these things, now when you are revising, you have to focus on first last 4 months before exam. This is very crucial. If you are confident and you have holistically covered it, then you can go for 6 months. But if you have less time, or You have studied less and then only focus on last 4 months. Don't go beyond that. And you'll have to prioritize. So first thing you need to prioritize is you need to do PIB, you need to do budget and economic survey, and you need to do this is the bare minimum that you have to do. If you are done with these three, I think these three and lot of mocks, then you'll be ready to score to more than 20-25 marks. If you are skipping any of these, then it will be difficult because many questions are direct from these areas, so you can easily solve those questions if you are thorough through these three. You can also choose to follow YouTube marathon sessions on GA, but what I told before, that the cost benefit I think is less because you go through thousands of MCQs and hardly one or two MCQs will be there in the exam. But still, if you feel like you can go through it, and also you see many questions that you have read, you can revise from there. So that way, your memory, that helps you retain your memory. So that you can do. Now, how many mocks one should do? I would say as much as you can. For GA, as much as you can, because there is no syllabus for GA. They can ask literally anything under the sun, and even they have not specified any time period. It is only from the previous trends we can understand that they are focusing on last 3 to 4 months. So in my opinion, you should practice as much as you can. Find there are many portals which will give you free GK quizzes. Take those quizzes. At least allocate 30 minutes every day for GK quiz and analyzing it. Do 10 to 20 questions at least every day without fail. You can take many apps are there. You can go through those apps, and you can practice monthly, weekly, or daily GK over there. Just practice it, read it, process it. Give it some time. So you can start with weekly GA tests, and gradually, as you are confident, you can go on monthly. In the last 3 to 4 months, you have to peak near the exam, and you have to solve at least 20 questions daily in addition to full length test. Like I said, you're doing your full length test. The full length test you'll not be doing every day. Maybe weekly you'll do, maybe in 15 days you'll be doing. But GA you have to solve every day. Every day you have to solve. This will increase your knowledge base, and once your knowledge base is broad, there is many things that you can solve without actually reading them, from inference, from common sense. So these things come when your knowledge base is really broad. So to broaden your knowledge base, you can choose to apply this. Again, focus on getting used to randomness. This is something which will happen in the exam, because what happens in the mocks, little bit of complacency is there that we are giving mocks only, so we can take that not very seriously. But the main purpose of giving mocks is not scoring marks, which is actually analyzing what you have read so far, how you are performing on those areas, and how you are reacting to the random questions which are coming in front of you. Because you start answering your question, so you have just 25 minutes. So hard. So what happens? Initial 10 questions in RBI, students take a lot of time to read it, process it, and everyone. I also did that. What we used to think that these are initial questions, so we have to be very careful. That thought creeps in once you are in front of that interface. To avoid that, and this takes a lot of time, yeah. So what will happen, these 10 questions, maybe they will take 7 minutes, and then you are left with less time to do remaining 70 questions, and then you will not able to read all the questions. So to avoid such a situation, you have to be very prompt while attempting the mocks, and just see how your mind is reacting to those random questions, because it is 100% sure that you will not be knowing more than 40-45 questions in any mock. If you are following the material of that particular institute, then it is a different thing. But if you are giving some random mock, so this situation will come. 40 is a very good number if you're knowing 40 questions. So you have to get used to the randomness. So you need to understand the purpose of giving the mocks. Then you have to read and understand the statements quickly. So these are the things you need to practice in the mocks, and learn and see where you are lagging, and then work on those areas. So you need to read and understand the statements quickly. So three statements are there, you read them, you see the key data on that statement. So that is also a technique to increase your reading speed. You don't have to read full sentences. You'll have, your eyes will find certain key data, and then your mind will correlate whether it is correct or wrong based on the knowledge base you have. So that is how it works in the real time in the examination. So you need to practice that thing in the mocks. Then you will have to make stories and mnemonics to increase your retention. So if you see some theme of G20 last year, many themes were there in news. So I also made so many stories, mnemonics to remember the location of G20 summits. So that thing you need to do on your own. Then you have to eliminate. You have to take calculated guesses and take intuitive guesses. Elimination, again, it comes from your knowledge base. Calculated guesses, little bit of knowledge base, little bit of guess, and intuitive guess is something which will come instinctively once you are reading that question. And this often happens in one liners. So you read that question and you'll get in feeling that this should be the answer. And mostly I have seen that in my case, I would say 50 to 60% of the time I'm marking it correct on my intuitive guess. So this really helps you to increase your score. Then you have to find your balance, how many questions you want to attempt. This you will be able to find once you are giving a lot of mocks. You are processing the questions quickly, and once you find what is the right number for you, this you will see from your mock scores. And mock scores, I mean, if you are reading material of a certain coaching and then you are giving mocks of that coaching, obviously your mock scores would be higher. But to eliminate this error, I would say, if you are reading from coaching X, now don't give mock of only coaching X. Instead, give of Y, Z, PQR also. And over these mocks, you would see what is your GA score, how much you are getting. Once you are doing that, then you will be able to find your balance in terms of how many questions your is in should be your target that you should be attempting. Maybe you are attempting 60 questions and you are getting 25 marks, and in the exam you only attempt 30-35 questions thinking that you will have high accuracy, which I think is very difficult. So, and you might end up getting 18 marks. So this is a big loss. So you have to find this number, what is the number that is suitable for you, and this you'll be only able to find out once you are done through all your mocks. To summarize what we have discussed, the process that you need to follow, you have to read the sources I have told you. If you find something better than that, you should definitely follow it. You need to read the stuff, you need to revise it, you need to strategize before giving the mock. What is your objective of giving the mock? It is not getting good marks. It is trying to read and understand multiple statements in a better way, improve your reading speed, finding the right balance, the number of questions that you should be targeting. And this will something which will not come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marks. You'll have to give at least 10 to 15 marks, and then you'll have to analyze the trend, and then you can take a decision. Mock without fail, very crucial, you must give. Then you have to analyze it to arrive at the balance that you are seeking for. And again you need to repeat this process. So this thing you need to do till the last day of your phase 1 exam, and hopefully I would say this will help you a lot. So thanks a lot for watching this video. I think it's a very long video, and I did not expect it to be this long, but I think I've covered a lot of areas. But still, if you think you have some doubt, you need some help, some guidance, and anything, any help you need, you can just mail me here and I will respond to you over there. Thank you. If you have some suggestion, do comment. Thank you. Have a great day.